Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I want to welcome you to the final weekend of the 2021 GCLS Virtual Conference and today's information session, Be Heard, We Are Listening. We want to thank this weekend's sponsor, Bella Books. Bella, thank you so much for your support of the conference and the organization. Just a few quick housekeeping items. There will be time for Q&A. The panel, the committee members will do their best to answer as many questions as they can. They will be taking notes of those questions. So be sure to use the Zoom Q&A box to submit a question. That's the section that they're going to be very closely monitoring. However, feel free to chat as well. Make sure that you use all panelists and attendees if you want to make sure everyone can see your chat. If you run into technical issues, please log off and log back into Zoom. This usually resolves most issues. And closed captioning is available. It can be accessed from your Zoom screen. So let's go ahead and get started. And now I'm going to turn the session over to Maria Pena.
Hi, everyone. I am going to share my screen here and just get us started. So I do want to welcome you to the GCLS Diversity and Inclusion Committee's Be Heard, We Are Listening session. As Carly mentioned, my name is Maria Pena, and I am the outgoing Director of Diversity and Inclusion. Today is officially my last day, and I will be handing this wonderful opportunity to make change over to Tegan Shepard, who will be the new Director of Diversity and Inclusion. I would like to begin our session with a poem that is aimed to set the tone of our session. There is no such thing as a safe space. We exist in the real world. We all carry scars and have caused wounds. This space seeks to turn down the volume of the world outside and amplify voices that have to fight to be heard elsewhere. This space will not be perfect. It will not always be what we wish it to be, but it will be our space together, and we will work on it side by side. In that same vein, we are committed to creating a brave space for all queer, LGBTQ+ people, fans, contributors, advocates, and allies of women-loving women literature. As such, this is considered a brave space, and hosts will take corrective action as immediately as possible in response to harmful behaviors, including racist, transphobic, sexist, or otherwise discriminatory language. Attendees and participants are invited and encouraged to express concerns to hosts at any time, and concerns brought to hosts' attention will be followed up with proper discretion and intent to address harm and improve group practices. As we all know, 2020 was a challenging time for many. And like many people and organizations around the world, the GCLS has recognized that we could do so much better with making those who create and support women-loving women and Sapphic literature feel welcomed. As I've mentioned during our membership meeting, some of the things we have done include the use of more inclusive language on our website, social media, and events. We instituted a diversity and inclusion survey after the 2020 virtual conference, which helped us hone our focus for a listening session of BIPOC authors and readers held in September. We contracted an organization diversity consultant for work within GCLS and the board of directors on this very important journey. To further these efforts and to begin to institute real change and not just race, but in the inclusion of all who support women-loving women and Sapphic literature, I started a diversity and inclusion committee in January of 2021, this year. And we have many of those members here today. So we have Celeste Castro, Jay, Ray D. Magnan, Amanda Radley, Karen Richard, Cindy Rizzo, Dylan Watson, Cheryl Wright is also on the committee, and our newly added Patrice James are also on the committee. Patrice will be joining us next month. If you would like, if you'd also like to help, please consider joining this committee. You can contact Tegan Shepard or any one of the committee members, and we'll be happy to discuss this with you. So be heard. We definitely are listening. Our newly formed Diversity and Inclusion Committee, we're working on promoting an inclusive, anti-racist, and anti-oppressive environment for the organization's members, the surrounding community, and allies who support this wonderful literature. Our committee is interested in hearing your ideas. We want to hear your comments and suggestions for how the organization can create and sustain an organization-wide culture that understands that diversity, equity, and inclusion, they're essential to the mission of GCLS. This feedback will be used to help shape the future of GCLS to one where everyone who supports women-loving women in Sapphic literature feels welcome and included and has a seat at the table. Thank you for sharing your honest and productive input. Please know that we will definitely be focusing on areas of diversity and inclusion. That is our committee's mission and work. And while we are welcome to hearing more ideas about GCLS as a whole and in other areas, we can definitely take those questions in, but just know that we are going to be focusing on diversity and inclusion matters and ways to help make everyone feel included. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and what I want to do is open up the just remind everyone that they can put questions into the Q&A session, our Q&A box. And it seems like there's some questions there already. So we can get some of those questions read by our wonderful Dylan Watson, who will be reading. Oh, sorry, I apologize. The wonderful person who will be reading the questions, if we can start getting that going.
You want me to go ahead and read that? I can.
Yes, please. Sorry, if I apologize. I might have
no worries. So the first question was, will the results of the survey that you mentioned from last year's, the end of last year's convention be made available to members? And I think we are working on getting that information. I don't know, Maria, do you have that? I know that I've been working on getting it, and we can absolutely make that available to members once we get that.
And just to be clear, is this the survey from? I just want to clarify which survey we're talking about.
I think that
if the person who asked the question could clarify that in the Q&A. I just want to make sure what we are discussing. So the next question, we'll definitely answer that question, but I just want to clarify which one that is. So if that person could, again, in the Q&A.
Oh, here we go. We got the response. The survey put to the members regarding inclusivity. I think the one that you mentioned from the end of last year's con.
Oh, yes. So that, yes, that is a good question. We, that could be possibly put into a report, but we'll definitely have to talk with the board, since that was last year, regarding making that available and access to that. So that will be something that we can look into definitely and see how that will be, and if that will be made available to the general public.
Okay, great. So then the next question is, how many members of the committee will there be?
That is a good answer. So our question, so we, At the moment, we are able to have 12 members on the committee to make things manageable and to be able to hear as many voices as we can. This committee does meet monthly, and we meet on the last Sunday of the month. And we try to make it a time where both US and international members can attend and not have to be up at 2 o'clock in the morning in order to participate. So, and that I think that number is kind of arbitrary and a little fluid as far as I think it's more important to have as many voices as possible that will be able to help us create a diverse organization and put that out to the community as well.
And then following up on that, there was a question, if the committee is extending its outreach to recruit more BIPOC members into GCL, or I'm sorry, where is the committee extending its outreach to recruit more BIPOC members into GCLS? When I originally read that, I thought it meant into the committee, but into GCLS.
Oh, GCLS, yes. That is I think that is the quintessential question that many organizations ask of themselves, ask of the community, is how can we, one, make sure that people feel comfortable enough to join GCLS, and there's kind of a crossroads of many people, as I would say, even myself, would feel more comfortable joining an organization where I actually see people that look like me. And it's kind of, unfortunately, a catch-22 where we want people to join, or organizations will want people, diverse people to join their organization, but then people may be unwilling to join if they don't already see people that look like them, or it appears that the organization is acting in their best interests. And so we have to go out and individually invite people to come and join us. And we can't just say, oh, hey, we're here, just come on over. No, we need to come out and let people individually know what we're about and individually invite them. I think that is initially the way to go. And as we gain more people that feel comfortable, that previously were not comfortable in joining us, or even coming to check them out. You don't necessarily have to be a member to be a part of what GCLS does and provides. And so that is what we are able to do. But we would also like to hear what would help make everyone feel more comfortable and welcomed to see what the organization is about. And another, I would say, even I believe I can speak for some of the people on the committee, is not everyone on the committee was like, hey, yay, GCLS. There was some skepticism, and I think the best way to see what the organization is about is to come and volunteer and really see what we actually do, who the people are that are on the board and on the volunteer committees that we have, and get to know them personally. And then that's how I and some of the people on the committee were able to feel that they, one, can know more about us, and two, that they can make a difference and make their own determination on whether they'll stay or and ask other people to.
Well, that's a good segue to the next couple of questions, which are how do you apply to be on the committee, and what are the how are members selected? What's the criteria?
Yes, so as I spoke a little bit about before, so you can reach out to Tegan Shepard, or actually any one of us on the committee here. We can be reached by email, and we will update our, I'm assuming we can update our contact information on the GCLS website, so that if you go to the GCLS website, under the About Us page. Currently, there is Tegan Shepherd and some of the committee members are already listed there. And that way you can get to know them a little bit more. There's a bio about them as well listed there. And you can reach out and just let us know that you're interested in becoming a part of the committee.
And we also have a joint email box. It's diversity-inclusion@goldencrown.org. So that way you can reach the entire committee.
Yeah, and that would be if one of our committee members can put that email address into the chat, that would be fantastic.
All right, and then we have a question from Pamela Stewart. Does the scope include generational? I'm guessing, Pamela, you mean the scope of our outreach? If you mean something else, feel free to pop into the Q&A, but does the scope of our outreach include generational outreach?
I think the scope of making sure that GCLS is relative to all generations. There are people in this organization that have been here from the beginning, and they're the grassroots of the organization. But we also need to, and we revere them. We are so appreciative to be able to have this organization because of their braveness to put this together and make a collection of many authors, and GCLS has grown, exponentially since then. But we also need to remember that there are new generations coming into the world every day. And our language may not be their language. Our identities may not be exactly their identities. And so in order to make sure that this organization is welcoming to all, is relevant to all of us, then we need to make sure that we are using language and having events and making resources available to all spectrums of ages that fall into our beautiful rainbow. So
excellent. Okay. And Kate, I'm going to say Wisman. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It might be Wiseman, or forgive me, Kate, if I pronounced your name wrong. The 2021 GCLS convention has seemed more racially diverse in terms of panelists and speakers. How did you achieve this, and what other steps or strategies will you be using to support increasing diversity?
Oh, thank you, Kate, for asking that question. So the way that the panels are, first of all, the way that the panels themselves are collected for the conference. Many authors and people put in their ideas. They say, this is what we would like to talk about, and they put in an application to have that panel. And then we encourage the applicants to let us know who we'd like to be on that panel. And then there is a conference scheduling panel committee that looks at every single application, and we determine, we kind of consolidate ones that may be repetitive, or we definitely want to make sure that there is diversity of the panel titles and topics themselves. And then we look at the people that are actually on being suggested for the committees. Not all panels have those suggestions, so we reach out to people to see if they are willing to talk about this topic, and that they are, as much as possible, that they are well versed in the topic that's being brought up. And so if we, as much as possible, we try very hard to, I was on that scheduling committee, but so I can speak to how that process went. And we look at every single person, every single panel. And as far as the expertise of people, moderators are on the will be on the panel that will kind of carry the flow of each session. They don't necessarily have to be experts on the matter, but they may be good as moderators on the panels. And then as far as the actual diversity, we take a very good look at that and try to and include as many as possible on a panel, because just like people want to be able to see themselves when they're looking at an organization, people also want to see themselves when they're on a panel too. So we definitely made as many strides as possible to make sure that I also want to reiterate that it's not just numbers and just making sure that we're putting people here and there just for optics. We understand, and as hopefully we all should, that we need to hear the voices from many different cultures, many just different aspects of the community. And the more voices we have, the more that we're able to, that's going to be better for all of us to be able to hear from everyone. So.
Absolutely. Ray, did you have something to add to that?
Yes, I do. I also I was not on the scheduling committee, but I wanted to say one of the ways that we got a more diverse panel, I was told, is that we limited the number of panels that people could speak on. Because in previous years, there were very beloved and well-regarded authors who were on like 6 or 7 panels. And that's, while we value what they have to say and we love their books, that, we want to hear everybody's voices, not just a few. So we limited the number, I think it was 2 panels that people are allowed to speak on at a time. And in that way, I think we made sure that we had a much more diverse representation of speakers at the 2021 convention. And I think we're going to continue that into the future.
Agreed, absolutely.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so the next question, Maria, would the committee consider allowing non-members who are BIPOC to be associated with non-members, yes, who are BIPOC to be associated with GCLS in a way to draw in new members who are also BIPOC, as there are former members and people who are wary of joining due to past practices?
Yes, and yes, and I would say that is definitely what we're able to do. And to volunteer for GCLS, you don't have to be a member. We highly encourage those who are on committees to be members, because we do have to, that is a situation where, there's voting that takes place and things of that nature. But to volunteer or to be on, we have a virtual series that runs year long, and you definitely do not have to be a member to participate in that. We want to hear your voices and your talents and your stories, and we definitely would be willing to, we would be excited to have you participate in that. And membership is not required for that.
All right, and Virginia Fielder asked, would it make sense for the committee to do a census of current GCLS efforts to increase diversity, everything from recruitment to awards to committee membership? Often I tend to recommend things that are already in process, but I don't know about them.
Yeah, so that is what this committee is actually working on, being able to produce that and make that available to the public, either as a report or readily available on the website. So that is, or other options such as that. And we are having those conversations now so that you can see the lovely work that these wonderful people are doing, and in efforts to what the organization is doing as a whole. So,
yeah, I just want to reiterate that moving forward, one of the big priorities for the committee will be to improve our communication, both on the website and reaching out to members to let you know what we're doing, especially in listening sessions. If we don't get to every question, we want to be able to have answers for that, and also to show when we have addressed some of these questions, following up, and because we want you guys to keep us accountable to what we're doing. So the next question is, does diversity and inclusion also include those identifying as not she, hers?
Absolutely. And would you like to answer this question, Tegan? Or, I
Sure, yeah, you've been talking a lot.
feel like I'm the one talking the whole
give your voice a rest there. Yes, absolutely, 100%. We are in the process of reaching out to new committee members and new GCLS members in general. We want to be a more inclusive space, and we want to make sure that folks who do not identify as she, her feel welcome. I'm wonderful. There's some wonderful panels this year dealing with gender and what that means. I know Rachel Gold and Kay Acker had a great conversation on Twitter after their panel. And so we are looking at ways to be more inclusive in the future and use language that is more inclusive to folks who do not identify as she, her. All right, let's see. Regarding the younger audience, does GCLS welcome all younger people, or is there a bar like you have to be 18? Maria, I'm not sure of the answer on this. I don't think there is an age requirement for membership in GCLS.
No, not that I am aware of. There's never been, I've not seen that and that question is not asked during the registration process to be a member as well.
And we do need to reach out better to a younger audience, and that's one of the things that we'd like to make a priority of the committee as well, is finding ways to outreach to younger members.
Right, and we do have, I know this is young adult, but we do have young adult fiction or young adult categories in our awards, and that the number itself, I think the age itself is kind of arbitrary at this point. As long as it's, PG for the little ones, just be careful. But yes.
All right, then this kind of circles back to something we spoke about a little bit already. Some panels were pushed, I know some panels were pushed to include more people of color when the panel was already set. If GCLS feels the need to do this, it should be an inclusive practice. I do know, I want to be clear, Maria stated this, but I just want to reinforce, when we talk about having diverse panels, it is not a check mark of a BIPOC person or two BIPOC people on a panel. It's about the diversity of ideas. And as a community, we need to have that diversity of ideas, of experiences. And one of those things that we definitely need to look at is the BIPOC experience as it is different from the white experience. So when we're talking about diversifying panels, it's not a check mark. It is talking about diversifying the ideas and the perspectives that are coming across. But race is certainly a large part of that, because it has also been a place where we have fallen short in the past. So it's a place that we're definitely working on improvement. All right, next question. Publishers post the importance of diversity on their websites. Wouldn't it be easier to invite them into the GCLS fold if there were more stories that included them? That may be a way of actually expand the base rather than just please their existing base. I agree, definitely, that I know all of our publishers are working on ways to include more diverse voices, and GCLS wants to support them in that process and help them find best practices in those areas. So yeah, we definitely want to include more diverse voices, both in our membership and also in the literature that our membership supports. So that is certainly a priority. Collaborating with publishers on ways to diversify and ways to outreach is certainly a priority for the committee. All right, let's see. And Apptaker, following up on Pamela's question, can you define diversity? What is its scope? BIPOC, generational, sexual, or gender identity? What is the committee's message to potential new members in these communities? I think, go ahead, Maria. Yeah.
Oh, I was clearing my throat, but
Oh.
well, I do want to say that that diversity includes, I hate to be vague about it, but it's like asking, well, what makes a people? That is what diversity is. That it's hard to define exactly. We want everyone to be a part of the organization, and it doesn't matter your sexual orientation, it doesn't matter your gender, it doesn't matter your ability, disability, or neurodiversity. That what's important is the literature, and in that literature we want to see ourselves, and so that literature is going to portray what we just talked about, with including all identities of about stories of women loving women and sapphic stories that this organization reveres. So
Can I add one thing to that,
yes,
Maria?
please, yes.
Definition of diversity. In addition to what the areas that Maria just mentioned, we're also discussing how to make GCLS more accessible and inclusive of non-US based authors and readers. That's a very important piece. We've gotten a lot of feedback about that. Part of the reason why this session is at the time it is at is to include folks outside the U.S., especially those in Europe. And we know that we have many people that are involved in women loving women or sapphic literature that are not in the U.S. And we want to make sure that their needs and priorities are heard and responded to. So that's another area of diversity that we're very serious about.
Absolutely. Thank you, Cindy. Yeah. All right, so from Sue Still, would it be possible for the panel to include themselves in a brief personal statement as to their involvement or ideas? Sorry to new to be all this. Yeah, I mean, I would love, one of the things we talked about in setting up the panel was we didn't want to take up as much time introducing ourselves so that we could hear more from you all. So I don't know. I guess we could do a quick around and just.
Yeah, because I would say this question has been asked a couple of times now that people want to kind of hear from us. Somebody says, let the other panelists speak. So I think it's, if we could just briefly
like
go
two
around
sentences.
and yeah, like just
Two
briefly,
sentences.
and I do say that we do have about 20 minutes left. So it is going by quickly. So just, so Tegan, we can start with you. Since you'll be.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Tegan Shepard, she, her. I am a WLW author. I'm going to be the new Director of Diversity and Inclusion starting, well, today. My big involvement, my idea is to try and filter as much of what everybody in this committee and all members get that through to the board so that we have more voices going to the board so we can make more concrete action. Cindy, you want to go next?
Sure. Cindy Rizzo, also an author. These issues are very important to me. They're issues that I care about in my job. They're issues that I care about in other volunteer areas that I'm involved in. And I know that I really care about GCLS. I love GCLS, but GCLS will only survive if it can become more diverse in all the ways that we talked about. That is the long-term sustainability plan, that and some money for GCLS.
Jay, you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, I'm Jay, she, her, and I've been a member of the GCLS for, I think, 9 years or so. And I'm increasingly growing more concerned about GCLS because of the same reasons I think you are all here. And I've been trying to nudge the GCLS to be more inclusive of people of all kinds of gender identities and sexual orientations, and to change the language on the website, for example, and be more including of BIPOC people. But I have the feeling that it's easier to affect the change if you can be part of it, and that's why I joined the committee.
Thank you, Jay. How about you, Ray?
Hi. Sorry, I was getting my cat off the desk. I am Ray D. Magden, and I joined the committee specifically because I am bisexual and neurodivergent, and those are the viewpoints I wanted to bring to this committee so that I could make sure GCLS is more inclusive of sapphic identities other than just lesbian, and so that I could make it a more inclusive space for neurodivergent folks like myself. I also care very deeply about listening to BIPOC members and their needs, and hopefully I can help provide solutions to make the space more inclusive for them too.
All right, Amanda, how about you?
Thanks, Tegan. Yeah, my name's Amanda Radley. I've been quite loud in my criticism of GCLS over the time I've been a member, which is probably about 3 or 4 years now. And when I have criticised GCLS, I've been surprised by the number of people who have come out of the woodwork and contacted me, quite often people I don't know. So when I was asked if I wanted to be a member of this committee, I really wanted to do that. Like everyone has said, we're passionate about making GCLS for everyone, and we're aware that in the past it hasn't necessarily been that, but there's an opportunity, and GCLS is an important organisation for us all. And I think it's very easy to just say, well, GCLS doesn't necessarily include everyone, so I'm not going to be a part of it. But we're all here because we all share the same goal, that we want it to be for everyone, and we want it to be better, and we're all very willing to give up our time to do that. So that's why I'm here.
Great, thank you, Amanda. And I do want to point out there's a couple of us on this committee who have been vocal in our criticisms of some things that GCLS has done in the past, and that's actually one of the strengths of this committee, is that we are not afraid to speak our mind in the ways that we want GCLS to be better. So if you want to be a part of the committee and you think, oh, I'm too much of a rabble rouser for that, that's exactly why we want you here. So Celeste.
Hi, yeah, Celeste Castro, she, her. I'm also an author. And, you know, I was one of those people who was very hesitant to get back involved after early interactions with GCLS. So I bring that skeptic's perspective. And my whole thing is about addressing the root cause of why people don't feel welcome at GCLS. And, you know, we can outreach to people all day long and all these different groups all day long, but if they don't feel welcome here, then that's just going to be, you know, more of the same. And so looking at how we talk about our work, the language that we use, the policies and procedures, being transparent about our work. And I am very firm in that this work won't be done until those values are woven into every single thing that we do, into the culture and the fabric of this organization. And so that's why I'm here. And I also bring that skeptic's perspective to this whole work, which I highly recommend. And I'll turn it over to Dylan.
Hi. My Wi-Fi, am I on?
You're on. You're good, Dylan.
Okay, my Wi-Fi went out, so I had to get back in. I'm back in. Dylan Watson, I've been with the organization a long time, and I'm really interested in keeping the GCLS relevant, as other members have said. So that's why I'm here. Enough said.
All right, great. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, I work for one of the largest federal government, U.S. federal government agencies in the country, and I'm a member of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee there. And I've been carrying the banner for the queers for a long time in that job. And it's also given me a perspective on what it's like to be part of another part of the outside looking in. And so I want to bring that perspective of being in the minority and how do we work to be more visible and more inclusive. And I'm here to do whatever it takes to make that happen.
Great, thanks, Karen. It looks like we have about 7 minutes left. So we have a couple of questions that are other roundtable questions. So I thought we could kind of take Sue Green and Janice Torres's questions and kind of combine them and kind of finish out with that. So they're both asking what we each think are the biggest challenges facing diversity in the writing community, and what tools and experiences we're going to bring into kind of solving some of those issues. So I would say that for me, the biggest challenge that we have as GCLS is that we have not always been a brave or safe space for lots of our members. I have a particular bone to grind with folks about some of the biphobic language that's used in our literature, and the exclusive language that's used on our website and in our awards. So I think that we haven't built a lot of faith with our bisexual and pansexual community, and that's one of the big things that I want to work on going forward. Yeah, I think anybody ready to tackle that question next? I kind of sprung it on everybody. So, all right, Amanda, go ahead.
Janice Torres has just put a question in the Q&A, basically about language on the website. I won't go into too many details because that's something we're going to talk about in the future, and we're running out of time. I don't want to take up too much time, but my number one concern about GCLS, and the reason that I will fight for and against GCLS to try to get this right, is I want everybody to feel included in this community. I don't want anyone to look at the website or an email or anything and read the language and think, am I not a part of this community? Am I not welcome? I don't want anyone to feel that. And there's no easy answers, and it's going to take a long time because I don't feel we necessarily have the correct language anyway in our community. But that's my biggest goal, and that's what I think. That's what I think we're all working towards. But that's something that's really special to me.
So thank you. Anybody else ready to answer that? Or interested in answering that?
Sure,
Right,
I will.
Karen?
Yeah, I think that that being included is such an important part. I mean, I think we all can think back to the first time we realized there were books about people like us out there, and what an eye-opening and an impactful feeling that was. And I want everyone to have that experience. And if calling something differently than we think of it now gathers people up and includes them, that's what I want to happen. When I came out, we were the LGB community. We've changed over the years. We've added tons of different identities as our understanding of what this community has expanded. So there's nothing wrong with continuing that expansion to draw people in instead of push them out.
Great, excellent answer. Anybody else want to take this on?
I will. We have a question here. Has there been any discussion to date on outreach to the physically disabled audience and accessibility? Well, first of all, we have closed captions this year, which yay, but that's only the beginning. That is a high priority for me on this committee. It's one of the reasons I joined this committee, to rep the disabled folks and to rep as well as Bi Pride, yay. So that is absolutely a priority, and we have several initiatives in progress that are attempting to do that. I can't get into specifics yet because I don't want to just make a bunch of announcements about what we're going to do and find like one of them isn't possible for whatever reason. But I will say that is an incredibly high priority for me personally and for this committee as a whole. There's been a lot of discussion around being more inclusive toward disabled folks of all stripes. So that's one of my big goals on this committee as an individual.
Awesome. Thank you, Ray. All right, who's next? Dylan, did you have an answer?
I think one of the greatest challenge I see is trying to find those other communities so that we can reach out to them to get them to at least consider us. And I think that's the biggest problem I see, is finding where those communities are and knowing and figuring out how we can reach out to them.
Great. Jay, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges that I feel in the last 2 years has been a rift opening up when you go to a con. There's the people who are very open to change and to being more inclusive, and then there's the people who usually our lesbian cis members feel like they are afraid of the change and they're afraid of becoming invisible. And I think that's one of the challenges that we face, of not making them feel invisible by including different identities and not leaving them behind, but leading them towards the change and not dropping them.
Excellent. Thank you. Anybody else have an answer for that? Cindy?
I wanted to speak to Paula's question about Lambda Literary, because I've been a pretty vocal critic of their last awards selection. I think there are some good lessons from the changes that Lambda has made around, especially around race and gender inclusion, gender identity inclusion. Certainly, those are worth listening to and learning from. I would say we also want to learn from some of the things that we're critical of them about, and some of the ways in which I think that they've strayed a bit. So I think there are lots of lessons to learn from this organization that is so closely linked in its mission to what we do, and that we really want to do that. I would say, though, that we would certainly want to turn to their group of emerging authors that they choose every year, that they select, just as we do with our Writing Academy. And those are both great pipeline authors to include in GCLS in terms of diversity, because I think both groups make a great effort to find younger and more diverse, racially diverse writers who can be part of this organization. So there are many ways in which we can work on the Lambda comparison, good and not so good.
Excellent. Thank you. Celeste or Maria, do you guys have anything to add?
Sorry, you can go, Celeste.
I'm sorry, I don't remember the question.
What do you think the biggest challenge for diversifying our community is, and what your main focus is?
Oh, yeah, I think it's, again, those relationships, and a lot of people have felt excluded in the past. And so, like, how can we reach out to them? And, I will say a lot, Maria and Tegan both encouraged me to get back involved. And I think that sort of seeing their leadership and allyship has really helped me like come back into it. And so if I could talk positively about GCLS, which I'm starting to, and I'm seeing the dedication of everybody that's on this panel, and encouraging people that I know that have walked away, it's all going to start with relationship building. So that's kind of where my head is right now. Thanks.
Great.
Can we tell them about the question submission form, because it's 10:50?
Yes. Yeah, I was going to wrap up if that's all right. I have copied everything from the Q&A that we haven't answered yet. We also have a survey that we are going to link. There it is. It's in the chat right now, where you can contact us in the future with questions. So I'm just going to do a quick wrap up because we only have about 3 minutes left. So I just want to say thank you for everyone for joining us today. And I can't express enough how crucial your suggestions and feedback are to the work that we're doing. We know GCLS doesn't have the best track record, and we have a long way to go to rebuild trust. We're committed to putting in the work, and we're committed to continuing to listen. So like was mentioned somewhere in the chat, somebody asked if there were going to continue to be listening sessions, and there are. We intend to make these listening sessions regular events. So please keep an eye out. We talked about doing one in the fall. And between now and then, send any concerns, feedback, or ideas to me or the committee. I think I mentioned email addresses before. My email address is tegan.shepherd@goldencrown.org, or the committee joint box at diversity-inclusion@goldencrown. Yeah, and I just wanted to say thank you, and I look forward to serving you as Director of Diversity Inclusion I know this committee is committed to doing the hard work. There's a lot of hard work to do. And we've started, and we are going to continue to listen and continue to advocate for everyone. So I think that's all I've got, unless anybody, Maria, do you have any last thoughts?
Yes, so there was a question on, just really quick, that wanted to know what our, the committee's mission and vision statement. So I did put that in the chat just now. And just letting you know, thank you to the person that asked that question, that is there. And I just want to thank everyone on this committee. And people are really passionate about making real change. And to the audience, thank you so much for all of your questions. And I look forward to seeing what GCLS does in the future.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you.
One quick thing, Tegan. What about the questions that are still in the Q&A box? How are we answering those?
I copied those, and I'm going to see about sending an email out to membership or including them on our website, whatever seems to be the best. We'll look for the best way to communicate with y'all the answers to those, and the answers we got in advance. We didn't get to those, and I apologize. We had a very active Q&A, which is awesome. But we have to end at 10:55, unfortunately. So, all right. Well, thank you all, and we look forward to seeing you guys at our next. At our next listening session, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you.